Hello everybody, my name is Lemonade, also called by Lemon. I am your coach of the Sacramento Surge, and today we've got a new league starting up with the Galactic Pokemon League. Season 11, this is my first time in the league, and we are in the Veilstone Division. This league is huge. There were over 100 applications, and there are 8 divisions of 10 people in each. But yeah, it's a lot. That being said though, let's just kick it off, honestly. But before we go into that, you're probably wondering what's with the blue background. Well, simply put, we got a new logo. Sacramento Surge is looking really, really clean with a brand new logo. We got a nice tropical blue and yellow. I like it a lot. Massive thank yous to somebody who goes by the name Lors on Discord. He put this together in a very short amount of time, and it looks awesome, and I love it. That being said, though, let's move on. So, in this draft league, everybody must draft a team of a Tier 1, Tier 2, 2 Tier 3s, a Tier 4, a Tier 5, a Mega, and 4 free agent Pokemon. And all of these Pokemon must fit within the range of 1,160 points. The gimmick of this league, however, there is a key gimmick, is that the owners of the league have access to a private Pokemon Showdown server where they are able to code in custom-made Megas. So certain Pokemon that don't normally Mega Evolve can now Mega Evolve. And that includes stuff like custom-made abilities, stat changes, type changes, and they have custom sprites. So that's really cool. It also should be noted that we are actually able to draft 2 Megas at maximum, but we are required to draft 1 at least. So yeah, that being said, let's go on into it. You're going to be able to see here on the format that, for one, it got updated. I like it a lot. And two, you're going to be able to see on the bottom right corner the Pokemon that I drafted, their typing, their nickname, their base stats, and their abilities. And going into the draft, I had the very last pick overall. So I immediately scrapped my draft plan because there was no way I was going to even have a draft plan. Whenever you have the last pick, you drop your plan and you say, screw it, I'll just wait. And I'm very surprised this thing made it back to me, all the way in 10th, all the way to pick 10. It's Nova the Mew. So Mew at tier 1 is a really, really, really good Pokemon. It's so hard to deal with just because it learns pretty much every single move in the game. It can be a rocker, it can run really offensive with like Dragon Dance and close combat and those type of moves. Um, it can be really defensive with like, it doesn't have Wish, but it can run some utility. It's got pretty much infinite options. It's crazy. Um, Base 100 stats all across the board is really, really good. And Synchronize, it's not the greatest ability, but it really makes my opponents second guess using moves like Toxic and Glare. So that's really good. This thing cost us 180 points, I believe, um, putting us at 980 points. So I'm really happy with this pick. I think it's very powerful. And I wasn't sure what to go with next, but seeing as I had the wheel, I had to look over a couple things. And I decided to go with Aramis, the Mega Roserade. So, Mega Roserade is really, really cool. I like this thing a lot. This takes up our Mega slot and costs us 140 points. The Grass and Poison type Mega Roserade here has not okay defense. It's not very good. It's 60 HP, 90 physical defense, but 135 special defense is really solid. 105 speed, pretty solid. Could use some support like glare and webs and stuff, or sometimes tailwind, I guess. But that 155 base special attack is crazy. On top of that, though, Merciless. Merciless is a great ability that I really hope gets put on more Pokemon because what it is if my opponent is poisoned, then this Roserade's attack is guaranteed to be a critical hit. So that can just mean going for massive Leaf Storms without even caring about the special attack drop because crits ignore stat drops and opponent's stat boosts. So it's pretty crazy. The biggest counters to this thing are most definitely Flying and Steel types, Corviknight, Skarmory, and Celesteela. And I'm pretty sure Corviknight was the only one that actually got drafted in our division. So that's really good. And so if I just get Toxic Spikes up, for the majority of the time, this thing hits like a beast. And also, Hidden Power is legal in this league, so I can just run Hidden Power Fire for those Flying Steel types and be pretty much set. Um, And on top of that, I have Mew as a good toxic spiker occasionally, so that can be really good to help out Roserade. And I wasn't sure where to go from here. I really wasn't. So I reached out to some people. Um, there were a couple of different ideas. My original idea was to go for like Scissor and Rotom Wash next, um, and then have like Gudra as my dragon. Um, but after looking into it, the idea that I liked the most was the idea of punishing my opponent for trying to go for Defog to get away Toxic Spikes. And of all the Defiant Pokemon, the one that I was most interested in was Galarian Zapdos. So we got to strike the Galarian Zapdos, costing us 160 points, putting us at 680. Has a really good speed tier at 100. 125 attack is also really good. And then base 90 in all of its defenses is really, really good. The main feature, though, is that its typing, um, fighting and flying, is so strong. That dual stab option is really, really strong. It hit incredibly hard with close combats and Brave Birds. It's got U-turn, Throat Chop, and Stomping Tantrum. On top of that, though, it actually has access to its signature fighting type move called Thunderous Kick, which is, I think it's like 85, 90 power or something, and it has a 100% chance to lower the opponent's defense. So that can just be really, really, really good. Um, and like I said, I wanted to punish my opponents for trying to use Defog to make Roserade's Merciless a little bit less applicable. So Defiant, if my opponent goes for Defog, it lowers this thing's evasion. And usually that doesn't really matter. It might against like Fire Blasts, but that's pretty much it. Um, so what you don't know, Defiant, if you don't know, Defiant, if this Pokemon's stat is lowered by an opponent, if any of its stats are lowered by its opponent, its attack goes up by 2. So this thing can become an immediate, crazy, powerful breaker. And right here, right after the, I guess it was right before this because I have a wheel. I got sniped. I really, really, really wanted Rotom Heat. Rotom Wash was also on my radar, but both got taken. Rotom Heat was taken right before this pick, literally one pick earlier, and it honestly messed me up kind of a decent amount. So I wasn't sure where to go, um, but I was holding up the draft for a little while, and I decided, you know what? I'm going to go with an electric type I'm kind of comfortable with. I've used it multiple times. I've enjoyed it multiple times. I'm going to go with Electro the Raikou. So Raikou is a pretty solid 140 point electric type with a good base speed at 115, good base special attack at 115. Pressure is helpful against those stallers. 100 special defense is also pretty good. 90 HP is also, that's also really good. 75 defense is mediocre. It's not that great. But something that's a little bit underrated about it is that it actually has access to extreme speed for priority. Um, Very underrated in my opinion. But yeah, it can hit really hard with Thunderbolt, Volt Switch, Scald, Aura Sphere, and it has access to Hidden Power, so it can go for Hidden Power Ice for those ground types. And it's just generally really solid. It's a good Pokemon for sure. It does have some struggles against grass types, but again, with Hidden Power there, it helps out. It definitely helps out. So Electro the Raikou, and here it was going to take a while to get back to me. And after losing Rotom Heat, the main reason I wanted Rotom Heat was to have a defogger that was not weak to ice. And there's very few of those. There's very, very few. So I decided to go with Tier 3 Raiden the Silvally, costing us 100 points. I really like Silvally. I've used it on multiple occasions, a lot of the time actually. Um, Normally, it's a normal type, but its Arceus system ability means that if it holds a specific memory, um, then it changes its type to that. Um, Base 95 across the board is also really good. It's really good. Um, but honestly, it's a little bit like Mew. It just has a lot of options. It can run offensive. It can run defensive. Savali's Steel is no joke. It's significantly bulky. Definitely respectable. I really like this thing. It can defog, it can party shot, thunder wave. It can run support. It can run offense. Its signature attack, multi-attack, is 120 power, always stab, and has no recoil. It has no negative effect. It's powerful. Um, so this thing is very respectable. Very glad I got it. And right here, again, I got sniped. I really wanted Umbreon for my dark type, but looking into it, it got sniped for me again. But looking into it, it was going to be really hard for me to get a steel type as well as a dark type, so I decided to just clump them together and grab Crusade, the Bisharp. So Bisharp is another Defying Pokemon for the same reason as Zapdos. Can persuade my opponents to not want to go for Defog. Um, Base 70 speed is not great. It's really not. But 125 attack is really solid. I believe it's the same as Zapdos's. Dark and Steel, not the greatest typing defensively. Really not. Gives some immunities to Psychic and uh, Poison, which I will never say no to. But generally, it's a pretty solid Dark type. With Sucker Punch, really powerful stab knockoffs, Iron Heads. Um, it can Swords Dance. Usually, though, having Defiant gives it a really big edge in battle, especially since I'm, going with a gimmick of trying to keep my opponents from not wanting to go for defog while also wanting them to go for defog. Um, so yeah, it's a decent steel type. I am glad I got it. I think it fits the team pretty well. Now my team is looking really, really, really offensive. So I wanted to grab something defensive, and this thing costs 80 points, by the way. Um, and there wasn't much left. There wasn't like, right now I have no water or fire type, so that's gonna be rough. But I decided to go with a good water type, Gil the Swampert. So Swampert is a really, really good water and ground type, only having one weakness to grass, and having some pretty good resists out here with Roserade and Zapdos, and occasionally Silvally. This thing is really bulky, base 100 HP and 90 in both defenses is really solid. 110 attack is respectable enough as well. And base 85 special attack for Scalds, Ice Beams, Icy Winds, stuff like that, very solid. It can occasionally run Damp if my opponent has a Pokemon that's really good at going for Explosion. Um, it's got Stealth Rocks, it's got Flip Turn. I really like the one weakness. Basically, that's it. There isn't much to Swampert. It's defensive, it has rocks, it can pivot, it can hit kind of hard with earthquakes. Uh, I'm happy with it. I most definitely am. I'm very glad I got this thing. It fits the team pretty well. Um, this thing costs us 100 points, putting us at 260. And I don't know what else to say about Swampert, but our next pick really pulls the team together like a lot. This thing is so good for the team. It's Bumble the Rabombi. So Rabombi has a really good speed tier, 124. Two good abilities, Shield Dust and Sweet Veil. Um, a good special attack at 95, and the rest is mediocre at best. But the main feature of Rabombi is one, being a fairy. That's really helpful because I really need a fairy type. And two, having sticky webs. So like I said, the team gimmick I'm going for here is dissuading my opponents from going for defog because of Bisharp and Zapdos, but I also really want them to go for defog. I really want to pressure them into going for defog because, for one, Roserade is very powerful with Toxic Spikes up, and two, because now I can have sticky webs, which will make Zapdos and Roserade both much more powerful. On top of that, though, it pressures them into going for defog, which makes Zapdos and Bisharp more powerful. It's just, I'm making them second guess every hazard removal. Every single time they try and use defog, I'm making them second guess it. Every single time. And that's really good to have on a team. Bug and Fairy, I needed a fairy type. I desperately needed a fairy. There's not very many left, honestly. This thing costs us 80 points, putting us at 180. And so we can afford a good amount left. We can afford a good amount of Pokemon left with that. But our next pick, I'm very, very happy with this thing. This is one of my favorite Pokemon to use in draft. It's Korg the Druddigon. This is one of my favorite dragons. I really, really enjoy it. It's respectably bulky. Base 77 HP is not great, but 90 in both defenses is pretty good. It's got three great abilities, Rough Skin, Sheer Force, and Mold Breaker. And the main idea behind this is, like I said, I want to be dissuading my opponents from going for hazard removal, but I also really want them to try and go for hazard removal to try and take advantage of it. And so far, before Druddigon, I was really only dissuading them from going for Defog, but now, with Rough Skin Rocky Helmet, I can really make them scared to go for Rapid Spin, because then I'm just going to be getting extra chip, I'm going to be pressuring them with Glare, it's got Stealth Rocks, It can hit really hard with like gunk shots, earthquakes, dragon claws. Mold breaker is really good for Pokemon with levitate, so I can go for earthquake on them. The thing is just generally really good. I'm really glad I got it. Tier 4 Druddigon, super good. Uh, did I actually? Okay, I did. Yeah, I wasn't sure if I actually put in the points that it cost. But this thing cost us 60 points, and we are down to our last two Pokemon. And you might have already noticed we don't have a ghost. Spoiler alert, we don't get one. I really wanted Gafagrigus. I also saw Winrigus as a good option, but this late pick of a Swampert was too good to pass up. Swampert's really, really good. Um, I may change some of that stuff later on, but honestly, I'm happy with it. Anyway, our next pick, we have enough for a 40-point tier 5 and an 80-point tier 3. So naturally, that's not naturally, but I decided not to go with the 80 point yet because I was looking at the teams. Nobody was going to draft it. I didn't think anybody was going to go for it. But I needed a Wish Healer. I also wanted something that was a little bit more consistently of a normal type. So I went with 40 point Decibel the Audino. So Audino is a pretty respectable Wish Healer with access to Wish, Heal Bell, Knockoff, Dazzling Gleam, I believe. Usually it's just running Wish, Knockoff, Heal Bell, Protect. But Regenerator is really solid. Tier 5 Audino, really good. It's one of those Pokemon that's like right on the edge of being a Tier 4, but just not quite there. So this is a really good pick. Very happy with this as a Wish Healer. More consistent normal type than Silvally is. And that's pretty much it. It's got good defenses. It can go for knockoff. It can be offensive. It can with like Wish leftovers and then like Calm Mind Dazzling Gleam. Like it can run defensive for sure. Um but yeah, honestly, decent Pokemon. Oh, excuse me. Decent Pokemon. A good tier 5 to have. And this leaves us to our last pick. And you might have, and again, we don't have a fire type, and fire water grass cores are really good. So I really wanted to grab a fire type. It was between grabbing a ghost and a fire. And between the two, I thought a fire was going to be more important because Savali Ghost is really good and pretty consistent. So I decided to go with Eruptor the Torkoal. So why did I go with Torkoal? There's a specific, like, strong reason for it. Well, there's actually a couple reasons. For one, it's got Stealth Rocks. Really good. I could really use some more hazard setting because I've got Mew, Bisharp, Druddigon, Swampert, and now Torkoal. But Bisharp is not ever going to run Stealth Rocks, and Mew doesn't always want to run Stealth Rocks. So I decided that I really wanted something that could be a little bit more consistent with it, could reliably set up Stealth Rocks instead of like having to try and fit it in on Mew. It's got good defenses, base 70 HP, 140 defense, and 70 special defense. They're not great. 140 physical defense, though, is really solid. It's got rapid spin, which is really good. It's really, really low speed tier is really good as well because my team is really fast. It's really, really fast, especially since I have webs. Um, so I figured this would be a really good answer to like Trick Room. Dissuade them from going for that. I think it's a really solid pick. I like it a lot, but I haven't explained like what the main real reason for it is instead of like some of the other fire types. The reason I went with Torkoal specifically is because of Drought. Drought is going to set up Sun for Roserade, who can go for growth and go +2 special attack. There's no answers. There's like no answers for it at that point. On top of that, it can provide Weather Ball for Roserade, so it can go for Fire type 100 base power, Sun boosted Weather Balls onto the Steel types. It can also provide Weather Ball for Raikou to hit Grass types really hard. And it's generally just a really good Pokemon for me to have. Helps out Roserade. It's not always going to come. It's definitely not. It's not the most reliable fire type for this team without a real Sun abuser, like Chlorophyll, Venusaur, or something. But it helps. It does. And the good news is I have Silvally, who can sometimes be a fire type that is more reliable. So that is the team. I am very happy with it. If there's like one thing I would change about it, it's being able to get Rotom Heat instead of Raikou. And then, like, Silvally was not on my plan. It was not. I was actually planning on going with Cafagrius, and that would have saved points for like a good fire type, I believe. I don't fully remember honestly. But yeah, I really wanted Cafagrigus and Rotom Heat. They were both really good. I wasn't gonna be able to get either of them anyway. They both got taken before I could get them. Um, Whenever I lost Rotom Heat though, I had to change the team plan a good amount, and it resulted in me not being able to fit it resulted in me not being able to fit Cafagrigus. So that was unfortunate, but hey, that's draft. It happens. I'm very excited to go into this league, and if you guys are too, if you're excited to see all these crazy custom megas in battle, um, let me know by liking the video, subscribing, all that stuff. Um, that being said, though, I'm very excited. I'm gonna see you all in week 1. Thank you all so much for watching.